Hello, this is Rumor, and today I would like you to time travel with me. As you can see from my original Rider-Waite-Smith deck here, the very first tarot deck I ever owned, I've been feeling a bit nostalgia for my early tarot practice and curious about the readings that I have done years ago. And so I found myself thinking of readings that have really stuck in my head even years later, which just tells me how powerful they were for me. And I'm not going to pretend this was my first tarot journal, not by any means. I have shared that one before. I think that went back maybe to 2012, which, okay, we're not talking ancient history, but the journal itself looks like it's been excavated from a tomb somewhere. Anyways, this one is just from maybe a few years ago, actually. But one of the readings that was sticking in my head, I thought I would just share with you today. And I think I would like to do a series of videos like this going forward, where I just go back to some memorable readings and actually read to you what I had to say about it at the time. And if I still have the decks involved, I will share those. And in this case, I do. So getting started with that, just to revisit, let's see, forget what year it was. Okay, yeah, not too long ago. We're not going too far back here, folks. This is February 11th, 2020. So at the time that I'm filming, this is almost exactly 2 years ago. I think I had maybe recently acquired the Wild Unknown Archetypes deck. This wasn't the first reading I would have done with it, but it is the first time I did a reading that was taken from the guidebook itself, which of course I didn't think to grab, so let me just do so really quickly. So here is that guidebook. Okay, so this was the first spread from this guidebook that I did, The Inner Quest. The Inner Quest reading was the inspiration for the entire deck. So think of this as the signature spread of the Wild Unknown Archetype deck. Sure, it takes a little preparation time, but it's so very worth it. Divide the cards into 4 piles according to their suits: the selves, the places, the tools, and the initiations. Then allow a question to rise from within you. It might be something like, what is the mythic narrative I am in? Or what is the current story of my life? If you want to do this spread for another person, use their name in your query. Draw a single card from each pile and watch as an entire narrative is revealed before you. Remember, we are working with metaphor and the imagination. Interpret with an expansive mind. So card number 1, the who, the archetypal side of the self that is most dominant in the story. This is the part of you that needs attention in order for you to understand and move forward on your quest. The where is the archetypal setting for the journey you are on. This is the energy that surrounds the situation, the stage or backdrop that influences the story. The with what is the archetypal tool you must use, find, or give up so destiny can unfold. Think of this as the key to the situation or the best tool for the task at hand. And card 4, finally, is the why of it all, the deeper purpose of your journey. This is the mythic theme or challenge that you will face as you approach your growth edge. Think of this card as what your entire journey is about. So it's interesting thinking that I did this reading in February of 2020 when we would have been on the cusp of COVID. And I just feel like that was such a transformational time, and really a time for, well, obviously we couldn't be as expansive and externally out in the world. So it was really a time of going within. And I know for a lot of us, that is when our deck collections grew exponentially. But it really was a time for like going within and diving deep into tarot practice, kind of for lack of much else to do. But it was just a great time for that, and just thinking of like how many lessons there were to learn emerging from that too. So I just feel like this was going into such a pivotal time. And I'm not saying I'm out on the other side of it now. Like, I think this is a journey that will be ongoing. But as for what it is to begin with, I've got some cards here that I already pulled out. So for the self, I drew the comic. Are we surprised that this would be the card I would get for myself? Okay. For the place, I drew the heart. For the tool, I drew the flame. And for the why, I drew gnosis. Cool, right? So here's my inner quest laid out before you. Commencing on that cold February day of 2020. And this is what I had to say about it. Before I check the book on this one, some initial impressions. The comic made me laugh. I find it quite joyful that I picked this, and yet could it mean hiding tears behind laughter? Which I probably thought, because the eyes are cut out in this cat, and there's like human eyes peering from behind it, which gives it a bit of an unsettling quality when you really look at it. And it's rather mask-like, so it's something that jumped out at me. I like to think it's simply my silliness, my seeking meaning through what is also fun and lights me up. The heart, well, that's everything. That's the center, my soul, my love and compassion. Everything important to me stems from the heart. The flame I received yesterday during my full moon check-in. The spark, the purifying, transformative light that will illuminate my purpose and path. And gnosis, a concept I'm still trying to understand, but has held great weight with me since learning about Mary Magdalene and the Gnostic Gospels, the metaphysical, the true intersection of everything that lives in the heart. So those were my first impressions. So now looking at the book, the comic knows laughter is the best medicine. Genius, seer, the magician, sees life's messiness and mixes and shapes it into a tonic that lightens and heals. The heart is the sacred center of the self, a throne to reclaim if wandering away, expansive, knowing, a gentle clarity. The flame is the language/call of the poet, the mystic, the shaman. It is lit within those who can see the sacred around them, who are connected to their purpose. And for gnosis, I wrote, awesome. True knowledge is in not knowing. The knowing through felt experience and esoteric study and mysticism. The eternal mystery is calling you. Study your passion in the deepest way available to you, is a quote from the guidebook. Touching the unknown with every one of the senses. So yes, as you can tell, I was quite delighted with this card. This whole reading, in fact, I just was very much feeling it deeply, especially if I had just recently been reading about Mary Magdalene at the time, because I feel like so much of that went to the heart center and really going into that space as an inner temple, as a divine gateway to God, source, whatever you believe. And anyways, the flame just continues to be such an archetypal symbol for me as well. I've been speaking a lot in the past year or so about spark, and getting my spark back and receiving divine spark. And anyways, so this is still just so meaningful to me, to the point where, I mean, 5 years later, I'm probably due to redo this reading and see where I'm at now. But I kind of love this. I kind of don't want to. Because I still very much appreciate how this is where I am still at. And I think there's just still so much to explore. And I think there has been so much I have learned and synthesized in trying to realize this gnosis. I love what it says about not knowing, because that's a space I feel I am so much more comfortable sitting in than a lot of people. And I'm not saying I don't have an ego, that gets in my way. Of course I do. We all do. It's part of being human. But I don't know. I think I'm really through the trials and tribulations of life, different roles that I've played throughout life, I feel like the progression has been to take myself less and less seriously. And that's why this is just so perfect to me, because if you've been watching my channel for a while, you must know, you must realize this for yourself. I don't take myself very seriously. And as a result, I have a very difficult time taking other people seriously, especially people who take themselves too seriously. I have no patience for that. I cannot handle it, because it's like we have to get over ourselves. Ultimately, we know nothing when we're asking these bigger questions. I'm just excited to have an open mind about everything, all of it, and we'll see, in the end, whether there's nothing or if there's everything, and what the heck it's all meant all this time. So meanwhile, I'm constantly questing and seeking answers, and yet I'm comfortable when I don't find them, and when answers just lead to more questions. It's cool. I think that's the coolest thing about this life. We're not meant to know, I don't think. I think we're allowed these little glimpses now and then. I think we're allowed those insights because we do have that inner temple in our heart space. And obviously through our intuition and the ways that we can connect with our guides and so forth, there's obviously that connection there, because I believe we have the soul. And so we're always tethered to that realm. I just think there's a reason why we're also here, and why we have, been given amnesia of what that life beyond is. We're not meant to know so that we can be here and learning the lessons that we need to hear within the limitations of our human brain and bodies and egos and everyone else's that we have to encounter. So anyways, to live with the not knowing is great, but I think to always question is it's so, so, so important and vital to our being. And anyways, I certainly keep the flame going for that. So as you might have noticed, I had... Oh, sorry, am I shoving these around? Well, I'm going to be moving them anyway. As I was flipping through, you might have noticed I have the Gorgon's Tarot here, because the next day, on the 12th of February, 2020, I decided to revisit the same spread, but pulling from the Gorgon's Tarot. And yeah, maybe the obvious reason for that was because I was thinking, round. Speaking of not knowing anything, I was learning about circles. But no, seriously, I was kind of learning about circular decks and how to use them. And for this reading, I chose not to read anything directionally if it came up skewed. But I did play around with that with the Gorgon's Tarot. And this was also one that I was just actively using at the time. And I was finding it was giving me, I don't know, a certain vibe that just kind of fit with this. There's something just kind of bigger picture about this deck too, and not just because it is literally gargantuan. I mean, it is like trying to shuffle a stack of vinyl records. But I don't know, each image opens a world that I just feel like I can step into. And so it's a great deck for not doing big spreads with, maybe just choosing a focal card. I think it's a neat deck for charm casting onto. It's almost like serving as a template for that. But anyway, just revisiting this Archetypes spread that Kim Krans has developed for us. I had... Okay, 9 of Pentacles for self, the Sun for place, Two of Cups for Tool, and Six of Wands for Why. And they were turned. So let's see. So Nine of Pentacles was actually completely reversed. The Sun was leaning that way, as was Two of Cups, and then the Wands was about like that, according to my little indications here. So then, looking at all of this in conjunction with each other, I wrote, as an elaboration on the archetype cards I drew yesterday, I see the tarot reinforcing an idea of delighting in what lights me up. But the reversal signifies this isn't/shouldn't be joys in the material realm, or at least not strictly. Not the things that have no basis beyond this mortal reality with shallow meaning that lives and dies here. I think there's still value in the things that give me soulful perspective. So thinking of that now, I guess what I was getting around to was, you just see this sort of earthly bounty in this card. And so I'm still seeing value in the things in this world that are like, that do bring a soulful type of pleasure versus just the straight up materialism, So it's like, it wouldn't be money that would light me up, but maybe it's a tarot deck I vibe with greatly, a crystal that I meditate with, or experiences that I enjoy with people that I care about. Things like that is the difference versus just like having stuff just to have it and just say that I have it and show it off. The sun as the heart certainly speaks to being lit up with joy. It's tilted right, though, which might mean more yang energy. A little more inward passive yin might tilt me into balance here. So just taking that as advice for myself. Two of Cups for the Tool. There's a connection of souls, a collaboration between me and my own soul, perhaps. Given its tilt, maybe again, it's me being too consciously, actively heavy-handed with it. And I need to let my inner soul shine the light as I quiet and try to see it in the stillness and dark. There's a sense of impending success coming with the gnosis. Like I've made strides and I'm almost at the gate of getting it. It is my own effort that will get me there. And I can credit some of the work I've already done for making what progress I have. I don't sense externally recognized achievement in this, just inner, deeper, and greater reward in a spiritual sense. So that was my take on this spread at that time with these decks. And again, I really enjoy the message of that. So hopefully that didn't sound too scattered for you to follow. My handwriting, I think it's like it got worse before it got better. It's not great now, but I feel like, yeah, it's been looking better than that. So apologies. But anyways, so this was just something taken from the archives, a reading from about 5 years ago, and it's neat to seize this opportunity to check where I'm at now with this, how I'm feeling about it, if I still agree with all of this, if I want to throw down more cards and do this spread again as a checkup 5 years later. It probably would be worthwhile doing that. But in any case, have you ever done this spread? Do you have this deck, or have you learned of the spread elsewhere? I'm definitely not taking credit for it. Again, that was all Krans from the Archetypes guidebook for the Wild Unknown Archetypes deck. But yeah, if you have experience with it, or if you have a go-to spread that explores that similar idea of the inner quest, please comment about it below. I would like to I would like to learn more. I don't need to do the same exact spread again. I'm open to trying something new. So I just, as always, love to hear your thoughts and opinions on this stuff. Please educate me, and I will see you next time, lovelies. Bye-bye.